Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Laura Murray. Laura has written multiple picture books and graphic novels for young children as part of her series celebrating the Gingerbread Man. Her first book, The Gingerbread Man Loose in the School, started it all off. And she's here today to talk about her newest release, The Gingerbread Man, New Friend on the Loose. It's a delightful story where the gingerbread man bakes a new cookie friend who takes a class on a bit of an adventure. These books are inviting, they are delightful, and they are full of fun. I can't wait to talk with Laura about them, so we're going to get right to the episode. Laura, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Well, thanks so much, Stephanie, for having me on the KidLit Love podcast. It's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you for that. I have such fond memories of the gingerbread man. I have fond tastes of the gingerbread man, and I feel like this is going to be a nice, fun, warm, cozy conversation talking about the gingerbread man series that you have so delightfully brought to life today.
Thank you. I love Gingerbread Man too.
Now, before we actually talk about all the books and specifically the book that we're talking about on today's episode, I do want to talk about you, of course. I would love to know a bit about you and your backstory and how you came to be an author with currently 9 books about the Ginger Man published.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll start with a quick story. Before I started writing for children, I was a kindergarten teacher, and something funny used to happen at the beginning of every single school year. You see, we would spend the whole week studying different gingerbread man stories. We'd compare and contrast them. We'd use gingerbread for math and art and science and language arts. And then at the end of the week, we get to use our math and our measurement to make our very own gingerbread man. So we would put them in the oven, we'd take them out to cool, and then we'd go outside to recess. And when we came back, they would be missing. And my students would go, "Oh, Mrs. Murray, where are our gingerbread man?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's go on a hunt for them." And so sometimes we'd create missing posters and hang them in the hallways. We'd follow little dropped candies or flower footprints. And along the way, we'd find the principal or the art teacher or the music teacher or the librarian. And my students would say, "Oh, have you seen our gingerbread man?" And they would go, you know what? I think I saw something small and brown running around the corner, but he was too fast and we couldn't catch him. And so we would search through the whole school, and then we always found him right back in our classroom. So this also served as a fun way to introduce the new kindergartners to the people and places in a new school. But it turned out it was also one of my students' favorite units. And so as they grew up from kindergarten and went on to first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, they would come back to me at the beginning of the year. So I had sixth graders who had had in kindergarten come back and go, "Mrs. Murray, has the gingerbread man escaped yet?" And I started thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe these sixth graders remember something that we did way back in kindergarten. It must have been something that, they really thought was fun or that they really connected to. And then it kept happening over and over. And so I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe there needs to be a story that mirrors the fun of our experience. So really, the students' love for chasing the gingerbread man through the school is what inspired the very first book in this series, and it's called "The Gingerbread Man Loose in the School." So once I decided to try to write this, I had education training from being a teacher. I had children's literature training, but I did not specifically, other than being an avid reader when I was young, have any writing training. So I joined SEBWI, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, a international organization. And then I found critique groups, I went to conferences, and I began to research children's publishing. And it took me about 2 years to write kind of and revise a polished rhyming story that was ready for submission. And then another year of submitting with many rejections
Mhm.
before GP Putnam Sons finally acquired it. So there's a little bit of, I was talking about the gingerbread man's origin story here, but maybe my origin story as a writer. And I'm happy to tell you about that story specifically, and then kind of move into a little bit of, how that evolved into the book series.
Yeah, this story and what you embody in the story is exactly why I adore kindergarten teachers. As as a fellow educator, elementary educator, I know the work and the enthusiasm and the tireless energy that goes into working with our youngest learners in the school. And to have that experience, like that gingerbread man experience, it is just like quintessential kindergarten and truly shows what an experience like that can do for students and their memories and their love of school, and of course all the learning they were doing when they didn't even know it and they were just
Mm,
having
mm.
some fun running around
Mhm.
looking for the gingerbread man. And you're right, how fitting that the origin story of the gingerbread man is the origin story of your writing career too. It is wonderful.
Well, I love what you bring up about that. Again, one of the reasons I think my students remembered this classroom gingerbread man hunt so vividly as they grew was because we all, adults including, immersed ourselves not only into the story, but it's tied up in the other curriculum that we did that week too. And so that made it interactive and hands-on, and they got to experience their own version of that story. So, when adults kind of enter into the wonder and magic that kids have in their imagination, I just think it makes that experience so much more fun and memorable. And that what is so special about teaching kindergarten is that, you really can do that. And it makes it so much fun.
Yeah. And now with your book and then later your additional books, you're bringing that same experience not just to the, 20 something number of kids that were in your class each year, but anybody, any child, any teacher, any parent, any caregiver who gets their hand on your book can kind of relive that for students. And that must feel really good to know that your story is not just in the confines of your classroom, but it's everywhere for people to take up and enjoy.
And I love that, and it really is an honor. And I do hope that maybe it inspires home gingerbread man hunts. And I know that it inspires other like that school unit that we did is not particular to our school. Schools all over, all over the world really kind of do this same thing. And so that is very, very special to me. And I do a lot of school visits as an author as well. And so the other thing that I really love about that is that it lends itself to, if you were the author of this story, or if you would like to write a gingerbread character story, where would you take your gingerbread man?
Yes.
And, sometimes it's not a man, sometimes it's a girl, sometimes it's a mermaid, or it's a vampire, or it's a sports star. It can be anything. And then it leads them into thinking, oh, maybe I can use my creativity and imagination to do this too.
Mhm.
Because kids are some of the most creative people I know. They absolutely can do it, especially if encouraged and given the room to do that. So, yeah, all of that is very special to me and very meaningful.
Yeah. And it's continued beyond that first book. So you mentioned your first book, the picture book, The
Mhm.
Gingerbread Man Loose in the School. And today we're talking about your latest book, The
Yes.
Gingerbread Man, New Friend on the Loose, which is an early graphic novel. I'd love
Mhm.
for you, before we talk specifically about that book, to talk about the in between. Talk
Yes.
about how the series grew and how it evolved into this additional genre as well.
So the very first book, when I was writing that one, I started thinking, okay, there's a lot of gingerbread man stories out there. It's a very traditional tale. So how can I switch this up and make it fresh and different? And I started asking, what if this? What if this? Which is what most authors do. And so one of the first things I did was change the POV of the story. So this story is from the gingerbread man's point of view. He is being made. We enter the story as he is being made by a classroom full of children. And it mimics or mirrors exactly, not exactly, but close to what we did in our classroom. So they go outside to recess and he's taken out to cool. He pops off the pan, but he thinks he's been left behind. So instead of them hunting for him or the old man and the old woman and the cow and the dog hunting for the gingerbread man, he is hunting for his class. And he's getting into mishaps and he finds helpful school staff along the way that help him. But when he gets back to his class, it turns out that they have been searching for him too. Not because they want to eat him, they've been hanging missing posters and whatnot. They want him to be part of the class, and they've made him a desk and a chair and a house. So it's a twist on the classic tale in multiple ways, but ultimately at its core, it's about belonging, it's about persistence, and it's about asking for help along the way. So when it's told in first, excuse me, when it's told in first person, that ends up making it have a lot of dialogue and action and kind of mild, funny peril, which I also have to do a shout out to Mike Lowry, the illustrator, who has illustrated this brilliantly through like comic and graphic novel panels. So this was one of the first picture books I had seen that was illustrated that way. And Mike said, a funny story, Mike said, he didn't sit on it, but he worked on the story for almost 7 months before he figured out a way to illustrate it. And he said he almost gave up on it because there was so much action that he couldn't figure out how to get it all on a single page or double page spread of a traditional picture book. And then he came up with the idea to put it in comic panels, which really back in 2011, when this was first published, you didn't see that a lot in a picture
Oh,
book.
yeah.
But it was wonderful and it was brilliant. And it actually kind of illuminates all of the action that the gingerbread man is doing. So you don't miss anything. The illustrations and the art mirror what's happening in the text fully. Um, so anyways, when this book kind of released and was doing well, the publishers said, "Hey, do you have any other ideas?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So the rest of the series, the next one is it's the Gingerbread Man Loose on the Fire Truck, and then the Gingerbread Man Loose at Christmas, the Gingerbread Man Loose at the Zoo, and the Gingerbread Man and the Leprechaun Loose at School. And all of these are picture books, and they follow my students' favorite field trips or units. That's where the ideas came from, again, from my students. So it's kind of cool to me to think that and to help students realize that they're inspiring, they're inspiring
Yeah.
stories for themselves, but they're inspiring stories for others. So and then my editor came to me once we got through the fifth picture book and said, "Hey, what do you think about taking these into emergent reader graphic novels?" Because the format is already there. The Gingerbread Man is already, his POV is first person, and there's already a lot of dialogue. Mike is already doing them in comic panels. And we can take this very familiar character and move it to the next level. So take him from picture books where children are, primarily being read to the level of where they are starting as beginning readers. And they'll do it with a familiar character. And I adored that idea. So then came along the emergent reader graphic novels. And the first one is The Gingerbread Man Buttons on the Loose. And then we have class pet on the loose, paper airplanes on the loose, and then the newest one, which is new friend on the loose. And all of these are the early reader graphic novels. So, because the emergent reader graphic novel format, because they're in this format, they have a single plot, they have simpler language, they have easy to follow comic panels with fewer panels per page. And they're all in a school-based setting. Those are primarily the differences, but it's the same gingerbread character where he and his class are solving problems and having adventures.
So let's talk specifically about the latest one, the
All
one
right.
that we're here talking about today, the newest in the series, although I'm so excited to know there are more to come, and we'll make sure to drop those titles a little bit. The Gingerbread Man, New Friend on the Loose. And I already gave just a little hint in the opening that this does involve a new cookie friend. And so
Mhm.
I'd love for you to tell us a bit about this newest book in the series.
Right. So in this adventure, the gingerbread man joins the rest of his class for a lesson on making some new creations with geometric shapes. But he kind of finds that the tables have been turned when the new shape he creates pops off the pan and runs off on an adventure on his own. So he and his class are going to need to think creatively and work together to get that new friend to come home. And spoiler alert, it's an adorable, crazy puppy. So this just came out in June, and this one's kind of close to my heart because of its themes, which are kind of about thinking outside of the box, creating something from ordinary things and making something brand new out of it. And they do this through teamwork and problem solving, plus the crazy antics of the new puppy there. And on a side personal note, this book was, I'm a big fan of dogs, love dogs, had them all of my life. And this book was written when our beloved family dog, of 13 years passed away, but it is coming out when we are actually adding a new friend to our household, a new puppy very soon. So it's a nice circular feel and it's very close to my heart for many of those reasons.
So in the beginning, we talked about how the origin of the Gingerbread Man was the origin of your writing career, and it looks like your life events are still intertwined with the Gingerbread Man. It's truly a part of you, it seems
Yes.
like.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, in thinking about this book and really all of the other books in the series as well, there are a couple of things that are important to you on the pages and that are included. There are rhymes, there are some riddles, some predictable page turns, some sneaky learning, just like kindergarten teachers know how to do to put some learning on the page in such a beautiful way. There's a refrain in the books. I would love for you to talk about those elements that tie through the book beyond the conception of them, but the actual kind of words and techniques you used in the book that keep kids so enraptured.
Well, as you said, as a former teacher, I'm always working to try to tie in curriculum or fun educational threads that teachers and librarians can use for the basis of their lessons, along with, hopefully an action-packed fictional story there. These are all written in rhyme as well, with lots of wordplay. And so for me as a teacher, the rhyme helps with word prediction, for young readers, for phonetic awareness, for context clues. And wordplay is just fun to like read aloud. And when I say wordplay, that means you're kind of using alliteration. Like I'm trying to think of an example from the one that is coming to me is the one from the very first book, which is hang on. I began in a bowl I was not yet myself, just a list of ingredients pulled from a shelf. So you have rhyme there, and then you also have lots of like wordplay, and you're wondering, oh my gosh, who was made and begins in a bowl and is pulled from the shelf. So when I write my books, one of the things that I try to keep in mind is they're called, I've created them as my three R's, and they help me remember what I'm going for when I'm writing stories. So my three R's stand for first, the refrain or the repetition, because repetition is very good for young readers. And the refrain is something that once it's said once or twice that they can chime in on and interact with in the book. So that's number one. The second one is a reveal. So in my stories, I try to give clues that then on a page turn reveal the answer. So as the reader is reading the clues and seeing the visual clues, that they can then interact with the story and with somebody they're reading with or themselves and say, oh, I think that's going to be this. And when they turn the page, they see, whether or not they are correct. Um, and the third thing is I love riddles and clues. So I usually try to, and sometimes the reveal is associated with a riddle or a clue. In some of my books, like the zoo or the leprechaun book, there are actual riddles in there and several of them that children can interact with. And then when you turn the page, they are guessing before you turn the page to see if they're correct. Sometimes they're just associated with little clues or visual clues too. So the refrain usually they appear in the Gingerbread Man books at least once or twice, often more in the picture books, where the Gingerbread Man is telling you who he is and what he's trying to do. Okay, so how about a little okay. And so to illustrate these three R's, the refrain, the a reveal, and the riddle and the clues, I'd like to give you a little sneak peek from the Gingerbread Man New Friend on the Loose.
Oh,
So
perfect.
the lesson is that they are using shapes that are cookies, so cookie shapes. And then once the cookies come out, or once the dough is made and they cut out the shapes, then they are supposed to create a new shape with the very basic shapes that they have. So here we go. The class says, one girl says, I'll make a castle and I'll make a car. And then I'll build a rocket that flies really far. And then here's the refrain. Gingerbread Man says, I'll pick out my shapes and come up with a plan. I'll make something too. I'm the gingerbread man.
Mhm.
So then what you see, if you could see the page, is the clues that is going to turn the page, that are going to be the page turn for a reveal. And he says, I have an idea. Can you guess the surprise? I start with a square and add two little eyes, a rectangle body and triangle ears, a tail and four legs, and then you turn the page and you see it says a new shape appears. And what you see in the book is a completed shape that looks like a dog using all of the shapes that he just gave the reader as clues. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense when I just read it aloud to you,
It
but
does.
hopefully you can kind of see the reveal, the riddle, and the refrain all in that two-page section that I just, did a little sneak peek of.
Yes. And I think too, it will prompt listeners and readers to now really want to see what you mean. So I think it was a good teaser. It was explained well, and now there is no replacement though for seeing those bright, beautiful, action-packed panels on the
Well,
page.
and especially when it's in a graphic novel, because in a
Yeah.
graphic novel, the pictures, you know, not only complement the text, but they are integral to the explanation of the text.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have 9 books so far, at least as currently of this moment, but I know more are coming. Could you give us a little sneak peek into what those titles are?
I'm excited to say that the Gingerbread Man has two more emergent readers coming out, one in August of next year, and that's the Gingerbread Man Trick or Treaters on the Loose. So I'm excited about this one because as I'm talking with students at school visits, and asking them where the Gingerbread Man should go next, a Halloween setting is one of the very top requests. So I've finally been able to do one, and it does have both a school and a after school trick-or-treating setting. And then the one that's coming out after that in 2027 is The Gingerbread Man Astronaut on the Loose. So again, set in a space museum, but which is another student favorite at school visits. I always love to hear students' creative ideas, and it makes me super happy when I am able to actually, do one of their favorite ones. So those are two that are coming out. And at the same time, I'm kind of jumping genres a little bit, and I'm working on a chapter book series and a spooky middle grade novel too. So those are a little bit of a departure from this, but it's exciting to do new things too.
Oh, I love hearing about that. The Gingerbread Man was just getting you started. As you think about the Gingerbread Man and all of the books that you have, especially this newest one and the ones that are coming, what is your hope for your newest book, or what is your hope for readers who get to interact with any number of your Gingerbread Man stories?
I just hope to continue to write for children as long as I can, and that these books resonate with them in both, a fun way, but also in a way that helps them to realize that they can be creators too, because creating something from my imagination brings me so much intrinsic joy. And kids inspire me and they fascinate me and they crack me up. And their imagination and belief in the possibility of magic and wonder in the world is something that I want to retain myself.
Yeah.
And it's something that I try to sprinkle into all of my writing. Kids are such creative, imaginative souls that I hope to communicate to them that to hold on to those things. Because, they are the creators of the future, whether it be a new book, a new adventure, a new invention, new tech, new art. They are the ones who have the imagination and the creative drive to do it. And they're going to be the ones who create all of this in the future. And I want them to realize that that's a possibility for them.
Mm,
And, if these books are hopefully a good example to maybe have one of them go, oh, maybe I could be an author someday. That
yeah.
would be awesome.
Yes. There really is no greater gift from a book, is there, to spark something in the reader?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, oh gosh, this was such a fun conversation. Where can listeners find you so that they can keep up with the Gingerbread Man and whatever might be coming next for you too?
Well, my website, which is www.lauramurraybooks.com, has all the information about the Gingerbread Man books, where to find them, but also being a former teacher, it is stocked full of free printables and book related activities, for all ages, mentor texts and curriculum guides, but also just fun things associated with the books too. Really wanted to do that as a former teacher too, because the more threads and curriculum connections I can create for these books, the better, to make it easier for educators to use the books and connect with them in their classrooms. I'm also on Instagram at Laura Murray Books as well.
Okay, well, I will make sure to put both of those links in the show notes. And I second that. The resources that are on your website, they're full of learning, but they're also fun, and they will make reading this book not more enjoyable because that is already going to happen because of the stories, but it will just help teachers, get more of what teachers don't have, which is time to
Yes,
pull it all
exactly.
together and figure out how the book can be an integral part of the learning so that we keep these books and all of this joy around reading in the classroom. So I feel like there's such a gift, and I'm so glad you mentioned them.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. I loved getting to know the Gingerbread Man. I love knowing that there's more to come. And listeners, you definitely need to get your hands on this one for fall, especially with our upcoming gingerbread season, which is going to be here before we know it. So thank you again, Laura. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. It was so much fun to be here and chat about this. I really appreciate it, and love your podcast. So I would encourage everybody to listen more, to all of the episodes. I really enjoy it as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And listeners, as always, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.